Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. It's Saturday, could be morning, could be afternoon or evening. Your time for us, it's the afternoon for me. It's the evening for my good friends here from the UK, from Lancashire. We've got Simon Bray, and we've got from Perth, Scotland, Steven Reid. What's happening, gentlemen?
Well, as I mentioned before we came on air, Peter, I feel ever so slightly naked this week because I have, Simon looks worried already, I have this amount of show and tell for the week. Nothing.
No props.
I don't think I've ever come to a show without a prop before. This is a bit weird.
Okay. I'm all prepared because today we're talking about The Captain and Me by the Doobie Brothers, ranking the songs on classic albums.
I'm going to go out of sync here. Because you both held it up, right? I'm just going to put this out there right now, and then we can move along and do beers. That's a shit album cover.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's crap. I mean, are those clouds drawn on?
They might be. I like the back better. I think the back is better looking.
And that's
I would suggest that album covers are not their thing.
You would be right.
I haven't looked further than this one.
Okay.
But yeah, I did. I genuinely saw this one and kind of thought.
At the risk of actually turning into Steven Reid, I really like the font on What Were Once Vices Are Now Habits. I think that's a cool font.
And that's a great album cover because it's a wicked live shot of them. With all.
Do you reckon? Oh, just.
Have you got it? Has somebody got it there to hold up? No?
Yeah, that's cool font. Yeah. Yay.
Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, see, I much prefer that album cover. It's not great.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think I'm being lit by J.J. Abrams tonight.
Don't worry, it'll be somebody that was completely unconnected to the plot that did it then.
You have the house completely fucking rewired, and then suddenly the lights in the wrong place for every definitely Saturday evening.
Can I just say that there was meant to be more than one wire, Simon?
Shit. Hey, come on, we've only got 4 minutes left of our 7 minutes that were allotted for beer and Tom.
No, right? Simon, what do you got today?
Thanks for asking. Okay, I've just poured this off camera, and I have made a right fuck up of it. It's worse than anything Pardo's ever done. I'm drinking this. It's called Old Dairy Snowtop. It's from the Garden of England, from Kent. It was a gift from a family friend. It's a dark winter warming ale, and let me tell you, the weather is turning here in Lancashire. It really is. It's getting a bit cold. The heating's on. The heat is on. The time is right. It's time for us to play our game. Do you see what I did there, Stephen? It's a sexy 6%. So Simon will be hitting sleepy snooze time by the end, I'm sure. Yeah, I just cannot bring the glass to my lips at the moment because it does look like an ice cream.
Big frothy top.
No.
I've got two observations already. One that somebody's bound to put in the comments a timestamp of something like 3 minutes 26. 3 minutes 26 until they start talking about the beer. So much preamble this week. Yes. And secondly, if you've got your heating on, Simon, you're getting paid far too much. But anyway, what I've got is I really enjoyed my Bellhaven Wee Heavy that I had a couple of weeks ago. It really was very good. So I've gone back to the same range. And I know that I should have done it the other way around because this will definitely be second best. I've gone for a craft pilsner, which is not really my wheelhouse. But I thought, do you know what? The wee description on the back talks of hops and classic lager yeast and water from their own well. Like, that's a selling point. I mean, it doesn't tell you that it's like clear or beautiful. It could be filled with anyway.
And then well, all right.
And then it says that it's got a biscuity aroma. Well, my Garibaldi does not smell like this, but it smells very nice. So, yes, that's why I've got. It's 4.8%. So, yeah, it's middle for diddle, I suppose. Should be okay.
I've often wondered what your Garibaldi smells like, so now I know. So, good times.
That's quite tasty, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, that sounds
right. I'll let you sniff my Garibaldi later, Simon.
And indeed, Mrs.
Just please do that off camera. Okay, thank you. That sounds like a really good beer. I would probably really like that. So I've got today Where are these guys from again? From Framingham, Mass. I'm probably the Massachusetts people are like, he did not pronounce that correctly. Framingham. That's probably how you say it. If you read it, it's Framingham, but it's probably Framingham. The brewery is Jack's Abbey, and I've had a lot of their beers. They're very, very good, and it is their house lager. Okay, so this is a Helles land beer. I don't know what that means.
Oh, Hellas is usually Greece, is it not?
Yeah, I guess they do a lot of, you see a lot of Helles lagers around here now. But
Okay.
this is just like their standard house lager. I've had this before, not in a while.
That by your standards, Peter, is quite a plain old tin.
Yes, yeah, this is
Isn't it?
pretty basic. It's small.
Yeah.
It's only 12 ounces. I'm going to drink it in my Keegan's Ales glass today. Keegan's Ales is a very fine brewery from
I would love it if you were drinking your Keegan Ale glass. I would love it.
That is a very, very, I was going to say UK joke. That's a very English football joke.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, it's relevance to the name of it on your glass. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's a long-standing brewery from here in the Hudson Valley, not too far from where I live. In fact, right close to Woodstock, New York, actually. So yeah, this is a traditional lager.
Looks very nice.
Very, yeah. Oh, that's really good. I haven't had this in a while. This is really good.
This is excellent too, I have to say. I'm really impressed with this range of Belhaven craft small bottle things that I've got.
What was yours? Mine was 5.2%. What was yours?
This is 4.8 is what I've got.
Okay, it's almost the same. Yeah. Good drinking beer, good session beer. So yeah, now that we got the beverages out of the way today, so ranking the songs on a classic album, and today we're talking about an album that Simon and I are big fans of. To me, this is the best album this band ever did, and it's one of the great albums of the 70s. It is The Captain and Me, as we've already shown, by the Doobie Brothers. This is their third studio album, and probably the one that really broke them here in the States, at least. Their second album did fairly well too, but this was the big one, the first of many. So, and it's actually, this is the first time that Steven has heard this album. So we've got one of the three, who is new to this particular album. So Steven has no doubt listened to this more over the last 2 weeks than we have, because I've been listening to this album most of my life, so I know it pretty damn well. So with that being said, though, we've got 11 songs. So how did we do this last time? Three. Yeah, why don't we do? We'll each do. Well, we could do 4 at a time. What do you think, guys?
Do 4, 4, and 3, will we?
Yeah.
Well, I think we should have spoke about it beforehand.
Oh yeah, that's right. You got some factoids. Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry, Simon.
Yes, I do. I do have some factoids, and as the Doobies are not in a chart sense very popular in the UK. Not in the slightest. No.
Did this chart at all, Simon? In the UK?
This did not chart at all. But what I did do, it came out on. Well, in America, it came out on something like the 2nd of March, 1973. Now, let's assume that back in the day, because there were staggered releases back in the day, weren't there? But I'm just sticking with that particular week. And the chart, which frankly I opened up just a minute before we came on. What an interesting chart it was the week after that. You know, they were competing against Are You Ready? See how many of these top 10 acts you've actually seen from... maths is not my strong point. 49 years ago. Yep, 49 years ago.
I can tell you how many years ago this was, because I was born mere months after this album was released.
There you go. You're just a whippersnapper. Number 1 was "Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player" by Elton John. I've certainly seen Elton. Number 2 was "Busting at the Seams" by the Strobes, or just Strobes.
Yeah, just Strobes.
Couldn't tell you. Nope, just couldn't tell you anything about them. 3, "Making Waves" by the mighty Focus. Hold that focus-based thought for a second. David Cassidy was number 4. Some classical music was 5. Simon and Garfunkel 6. My very close friend Rick Wakeman, the 6 Wives of Henry VIII, was number 7. Have you ever seen me and Rick in the same place? I think not.
Simon, that'll be that restraining order again.
Very much so, yeah. Yeah. The Quo, they were in the top 10 with Pile Driver. Who do you think we are? Who do you think we are? Deep Purple was number 9. And Focus had 2 albums in the top 10 in the UK. Now, I've only ever seen Focus once. I saw them at Clitheroe Grand, which holds about 400 people. And how the mighty were fallen, kids. I'm just saying. Also around at that point, James Last. Yep. Donny Osmond. More James Last. Then some James Last. Then Max Bygraves.
Oh, very good. I want to tell you a story.
Just, aren't you glad that you don't remember these years on occasion? Gary Glick? No. Yeah. Gilbert O'Sullivan. So another Max Bygraves album. The UK was a seriously weird place to grow up in the 70s. White Dog Poo and all that stuff, and weird lots of hit albums. You know what I mean? Interesting place. And yeah, The Captain and Me. See what I did there? I brought it back to what we're actually talking about. Nope, not a sniff of chart action. That's not the case in the USA, is it? I believe.
No, it definitely wasn't. It got to number 7 in the US, and as you said, it was released in the March of '73, but it took until July 21st to reach number 7 in the charts. A slow, steady rise across that time, and the rest of the charts in the US, album charts, top 10, was made up of. If you were a couple of weeks earlier, if they got there a couple of weeks earlier, it was basically the Beatles in the top 10, even though the Beatles were doing other things. Because number 1 was George Harrison, Living in the Material World. Then you've got the Carpenters, Now and Then. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon at number 3. Paul Simon, There Goes Rhymin' Simon. Then Paul McCartney and Wings, Red Rose Speedway. Carole King with Fantasy. Then the Doobie Brothers, Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy. Seals and Crofts, Who, with Diamond Girl. And then Deep Purple with Machine Head at number 10. And other things of interest, because number 11 was also Deep Purple with Made in Japan. Made in Japan? No, it wasn't made in Japan. It was made in Japan. Dearie me. It's only 4.8 people.
Everybody, the collector's corner is just shitting themselves right now. Made in Japan? Why have I not got this? Shit!
And was that a mispress that I don't have? Yeah, very rare. There's one copy. I own it. It's their best album ever, you'll understand. So number 12, because that didn't happen. Okay, Edgar Winter. They only come out at night. Yes, with Yes songs at 13, and then you've got the Beatles with the Blue album at 14 and the Red album at 20, and then I've stopped at number 28, Billion Dollar Babies, Alice Cooper. So lots of good stuff in the US charts. It really shows. That was very interesting because you kind of going a bit deeper into the UK chart. The difference between what the UK was consuming in the early 70s and then the real music that the US was listening to.
And a reason why this probably did so well in the US, Long Train Running, released as a single, made it to number 8 on the Billboard charts. And China Grove, released a couple months later, made it to number 15. So both were fairly big radio songs, and still to this day, heavily played songs on US classic rock FM radio.
What label was this on?
Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Produced by Ted Templeman.
Yes, that I did though. Yeah, I didn't realize that until this week.
Yeah.
Ted Templeman and Don Landy, the people behind Van Halen, also the people behind the Doobies.
Yes.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wouldn't put those together necessarily, would you?
No, not at all.
Or not now that I've listened to this, I wouldn't immediately have thought, yes, eruption.
Yeah. The Mantra, because he did the Montrose album right around the same time. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, right enough. Yeah. Okay. Why not?
Yeah. So all right. So Simon's going to kick us off with his first few. So what do we say? 4? We're doing 4 at a time. Yep.
So I've got to go from 11 to 8.
Yeah.
So I can do that.
Cool.
I can do that. What I would like to say is that this is like a proper album, and if you ever get the chance, Ted Templeton, yeah, Yep. Has written a book.
And there's where those little edits would come in if it was anybody else, right?
That we were talking about earlier. Yep. I feel like Max Headroom. Yeah. So, yeah, Ted Templeman wrote a book a couple of years ago. It's really, really interesting. He talks a lot about the Doobies and Van Halen, and he talks a lot about arrangements. And you can tell that this album was made by somebody who really knew what they were doing. Well, at least me and Pete can tell that. We'll find out about you, Stephen, shall we? 11, Busted Down Around O'Connelly's Corners. It's 48 seconds long. It's fine, it's all right. I never skip it because I practically never skip anything, But,
Yeah, by default, right? Because it's the shorty song on the album.
Yeah, and we always pick the one that's just there for nothing, don't we? That's what we do. Okay, let's delve into the potential controversy, shall we? 10 for me is the title track, The Captain and Me. I would say that actually I don't dislike anything on this record. I like one of the reasons we chose it is because two of us really like it and one of us hasn't heard it. Not only is this a really well arranged album, all the songs sound great, but it's a really well sequenced album. I think it's from a time when people made records, and there's a flow through the record, and there are heavier songs on this. There are songs, generically. There's different stuff going on here, and this is a really great way to ease out of the album. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this song. It's just for me, and I do believe we got called what was it, lame? We like lame music. For me, it's a classic record, and there is nothing whatsoever wrong with this song. It just happens over the last few weeks that I've been re-listening to it to be number 10. And my number 9, Yukai, I really like Yukai. I really, really like it. It's really laid back. It's got all the good stuff that all the other tunes have. It's got great guitars, got great harmonies. I really like it. I just happen to think there are other things that I like more, like my number 10, 9, 8. Is that where I'm going? Yeah, numerous is really not my thing. I was South City Midnight Lady. It's kind of Croce-esque, I think. Yeah, that's one for the kids there.
It's what?
Like Jim. It's a bit like Jim Croce in places.
You don't know Jim Croce?
He's been discussed on his channel before, and I went, "Who?" Yeah,
exactly.
Right. I did go look, and I did go listen, and quite liked him. I'd never heard of the guy in my life before, genuinely. But when I listened to it, I kind of thought, "Yeah, okay." I think it was maybe Eric that mentioned the one in the proxy on that you listen to Pot show.
And I mean it as a thumbs up because I like a bit of Jim. What you've got with the Doobies is you've got two at this point singers. And this one's a Patrick Simmons one, and I really like it. It's not right. It's good, and I like it when they stretch when they stretch out. When the band like they stretch out, they noodle, but they don't noodle just for shits and giggles. I can feel a Simon word coming again. If you've got your bingo cards out, it's still pretty concise. This record clock does not clock in at 7 hours. They say what they want to say. It's good what they want to say, and it's all good. This is a bit quite smooth. I'm going to go on to talk about some of the more rocky ones because I think they touch many bases on this record. And if you've got a song as good as this at number 8, I think you're looking at a really good record. Yeah, done.
Cool.
Okay, so I had never heard this before. I realised after I listened to it that I have heard some of it before. There are 2 songs I was aware of on this album because you hear them over here in certain places at certain times. I didn't actually know it was the Doobie Brothers though that I was listening to at those points. So what I have done is I've listened to this album numerous times since we agreed that this is what we were going to do. And 2 nights ago, I just sat down and wrote a stream of consciousness. I just did. This is what I feel about this song at the time. And this is just what I'm going to read out, okay? Because I don't know these songs well enough to elucidate about anything beyond that. So, number 11 is Busted Down Around O'Connelly Corner. And I literally wrote underneath that, what's the point of that then? So number 10 is, okay, Clear as the Driven Snow. And I know already from some of the people who've commented on Twitter since we mentioned we were going to do this, that that's already the wrong answer, okay? But I can only go with what I've done. And what I've written is, would it be wrong to call this, well, boring, okay? Once the beat kicks in, I can imagine Ellie Magnum grabbing this by the big velvet lapels and turning it into a real song rather than this twangy squelch, right? The song is well constructed, but even when it repeats the opening guitar motif later in the song, it overplays its hand, going all in a bluff where you keep waiting for the killer cars to turn up, but nothing happens. Admittedly, there is payoff with some kicking guitars, but it's really right at the end, and by that point, I was basically asleep. Okay, so that is my number 10. Number 9, and I scored them out of 10 as we went through as well, but I won't tell you what the scores were because people are already angry. Okay.
Oh, there will be people that are happy as well, won't they? So swings and roundabouts.
Everyone's going to love it, yeah. Okay, and my opinion does differ as we go through these. There's stuff here that I actually like quite a lot. Okay, so number 9 was Dark-Eyed Cajun Woman, which as a song title I really dislike, but there you go. So I've just written down, this does nothing for me at all. It's schmaltzy, listless, and basically goes nowhere. Yes, there's some tasty guitar work, but it's wasted on the horrible never get away backing vocals and those overwrought strings. This one I'd happily never hear again. That's what I put down for that. Yes.
Do you write everything as if you were reviewing it?
I did this. Well,
yeah, do you sit there and write to your bank manager, and in that similar kind of way?
Like I have enough money to have a bank manager.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
So number 8, I've gone for South City Midnight Lady. I don't like the song titles on any of these tracks. And I've put this is like bad TV music. And as Peter knows, I like TV music. Okay, I can imagine this being buried somewhere in mid-70s afternoon TV with a gentle farming family fretting about their crops failing, and little Sue having a fully clothed romp with a handsome hunk from next door. That's what this song made me feel. It's got titles, TV titles written all over it. And I did score these out of 10. I'm not even at 5 out of 10 yet. So there are elements of this album that I really didn't like very much. And there's more to come.
All right. Number 11 for me by default, because it's 43 seconds long, Busted Down Around O'Connelly Corners. It's actually really good. It's this cool little acoustic guitar ditty, but I agree with you, Stephen. It should have been longer, right? Yes.
I'm just going to say that somebody, probably more than somebody, in the comments will go, it's not a real song, it's just an introduction, why did they rank it? If bands are going to name it, I'm going to rank it.
Yeah, exactly. I totally
right. It's what we do. It's what we do.
That's how. Number 10. I'm kind of mimicking Simon here. Captain and Me, title track, number 10. I like it a lot. It's a really strong acoustic rock song. There's nothing bad about it. The melodies are good. It's really well played. Love the vocals. It's a shame it's coming at number 10, but to me, that's how strong this album is, that a really great song like Captain and Me is number 10. Number 9 is Ukiah. It's easy, great melodies. The lead guitars are sizzling. I love Tom Johnston's vocals on this. I mean, I think Tom and Pat Simmons form just such a great vocal team on these early albums, man. I love the fact that they both sound really different from each other, and you get those flavors throughout every album. And then, the backing vocals of this band are just tremendous. I wish Ukiah was longer. It's like barely 3 minutes long. I wish it was like 5 minutes long. I really like Ukiah a lot. And number 8, I'm going to go with Dark-Eyed Cajun Woman. I mean, I love it. It's bluesy. It's kind of like this swampy acoustic electric blues rock song. It's got lots of groove. Tom's lead vocal is great. You got Pat, John, and Tyrone on the backing vocals. Love the guitar work. I really like Dark-Eyed Cajun Woman a lot. So that's my number 8. But there's great stuff to come. I mean, to me, all these songs are really great. It's kind of not much separates some of these songs. So, but I'll turn it back over to Simon.
I'll tell you what, Pete, you've got great taste, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Yes. Yeah. So
You're very good to be on the same wavelength as
there you go.
such a legend as yourself. just saying. Okay, so 7. I think we're into the really, really good shit at this point. I mean, I think we were a song back, you know what I mean? Well, 3 or 4 songs back. 7 for me, Evil Woman. I love Evil Woman. It's great. You know, you listen to how you know. In the words of Spinal Tap, I wish I was Stephen. Wow, how cool must it be to get to 300 years old like Stephen is, and then get to listen to this for the first time?
First time.
I'm sure you must have. I'm sure you must have gone. What the fuck?
I did.
You know,
This is the Doobie Brothers? What is this? Is
you listen to the first 6 and suddenly they're sounding like the Church of the Cosmic Skull or something. You think,
I said exactly what Peter said, but not quite. And see, it's funny how, you know, the way you say things really matters. I went, this is the Doobie Brothers?
yeah, I mean, just where did this come from?
Yeah.
You know, well, super great dirty guitar tone. Patrick Simmons on singing it. And one thing, if you read Ted Templeman's book, he quite often says, "Well, the Doobies came to me and said, we're a guitar band," and sometimes you think, "Oh, really?" And then you think, "Oh, yes, you are. You really are." And that's where Evil Woman is. You know, on another day, depending what side I get out of it, Evil Woman could be number 1. That's how strong I think this actual album is. But for me, 6, Dark Eyed Cajun Woman, generically, they can do everything, practically. And you know what? They went on to become an R&B band, you could argue. But you want the blues? We can do that. We can toss that shit off. We can, let's do it. You know, it's a really, really, really cool song. I really should have flipped those 2 around now I think about it. But 5, Clear as the Driven Snow. Again, Patrick Simmons. It's quite folky. Apparently, it's about drugs. No, a bit deliverancy, don't you think?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And really, quite an ominous song because you associate the Doobies. Hey, sunshine. Yeah, look at it. No, it's quite, ooh, shit, bad stuff. And as just on the rare occasion that you are correct, Stephen, I believe the phrase "kicking guitars" could be applied to this song. Yes, indeed. Do I go to 4 or not at this point? We really don't do.
You do.
Yeah. Oh Christ! I mean, I ultimately plumped for Natural Thing at 4. What a great sounding album, and that's the great thing about it. So this album sounds fantastic. It really, really does. You think, I know I've got a thing, and I've said this before that records in the 70s, there's a degree of separation. You could tell that. When I listen to albums from the here and now, everything hits me about there. Everything's all just over the top. Have you ever been in a room together? Have you? But with this, and with all the songs on this album, you've got a guitar over here, the bass might be there. You've got percussion. It's a percussion heavy album. They're a percussion heavy band, I think. Sometimes there was a kind of, I would suggest, fad for two drummer bands at one point, wasn't there? Charlie Daniels had it. The Allman Stage 8 Special had 2 drummers. Well, you never could really tell, could you? But here you can tell. What you've got. This opening says, "Look at us, we're awesome." Harmonies, check. Earworm, check. Sounds like a band. Check. Brilliantly arranged. Brilliantly arranged. I can't believe it's number 4, but it's a great song, and just what a super duper way to open an album. I'm right, Stephen, don't you? You know I am.
Well, I was just wondering that now that I'm going to do my next 4, I won't be too upset if you go and give yourself a wipe. because
What?
maybe a wipe. You seem to be a bit of a slabbery mess already.
Just wait till I get to number one. I'm just going to be
3
creaming
songs to
myself
go.
all over the floor.
I mean, there was a point there where I thought you had just, well, combusted,
Why?
shall we say.
I really thought you said something else.
Right, my number 7, before we get too far down this track, is Long Train Running. Oh, let's see what anyway. So now this was one I knew because they do play it on Planet Rock. But I did not know that it was the Doobie Brothers, and I've got to be honest and say I don't really like it. It's one of those songs that would come on back in the days where in my car in Perth I could actually listen to Planet Rock before somebody somewhere decided that digital radio, the future, can reach Perth, but it can't be in Perth. Every road into Perth, you can listen to Planet Rock. In Perth, you cannot. Anyway, that's not really the point. Does annoy me though. Yeah,
Really? It does annoy you. I couldn't tell.
That's fine. I'm glad I didn't overplay it. That's good. So, as Simon has just mentioned, there's lots of percussion on this album, and I found it really quite annoying on this song. I just think it's overworked. I'm not a fan of the harmonica, and I find it all a bit twee. This isn't, as has been mentioned, this is not really, it would appear, my wheelhouse where we're in at the moment. So number 6 is Evil Woman. There's a kind of Native American kind of feel to the beat, which I don't mind. I really hate the Evil Woman. I really dislike that. I hate these airy-fairy. It seems to be at odds with everything else that's going on.
Are we sure he listened to the same album, Simon? I'm losing faith in that. I don't know.
I am when we do the Wild Hearts, I'm going to smoke into the middle of next
I'll tell you what, the Wild Hearts would not be
hold on. There is no classic Wild Hearts album, so we won't be doing them. Yeah. We'll do them the same week that we do
I think you'll find that the debut album from the Wild Hearts charted higher than this in the UK. Moving along. Okay, so number 5 is China Grove, and this is another one that I knew from the radio. Again, didn't know who it was. The main riff kind of took me, and I know that we're timeline-wise, this doesn't make much sense, but the main riff took me to something that Joe Walsh would play. It's kind of got that kind of, it's not wacky, but it's not straightforward. It's interesting to listen to. It hooks you in. There's more going on than you first realise with it. There is a really good rock vocal here, and that's maybe been my issue up until now. I've found the vocals, for my taste, a bit wishy-washy. And it adds a bit of bite. And I maybe need a bit of bite. I do listen to, more laid-back and sedate stuff, but it doesn't tend to be particularly in this vein, it has to be said. But same again, I find that there's sections in here probably that just are a bit needless. There's lots of whoas and all this kind of that just don't really do a great deal for me. And I don't know if because I knew the reputation of this band is as a guitar band, I find the solos to be like neat and tidy. They're not going to make my jaw drop in any particular way. The constant piano gives everything something to kind of hold on to. And it has a real proper ending, this song, which a lot of them didn't up to. They kind of frittered away. And I'm at a stage now where I'm beginning to feel like they mean it a bit more. And I know I'm talking about sacrosanct stuff here, but there you go. Number 4, Natural Thing. Excellent vocal harmonies. I like the use of the keyboards running against the cool guitar melody. I could do with more keyboards on this album because when they appear, they're really good. It's a little wistful at the end section and they fade out, but it's clear that the band are tight as hell. I mean, there's lots here I haven't particularly liked, but the performances, wow, off the charts. As Simon mentioned, the arrangements are great. There's lots to admire, but we're only now, and I'm at number 4 out of 11. Am I beginning to kind of think, yeah, okay, I can listen to this. It's still, it scored 7 out of 10. We're getting there, but I'm not excited by it, has to be said. The vocals have been kind of honed to near perfection without being overly perfected, is what I wrote there. I mean that as a good thing, because they've clearly been worked on long and hard. And as a band, the vocals click massively, but they don't sound, they still sound natural, no pun intended, with the song title. So there you go. That's my whatever it is, 7, 6, 5, and 4.
All right. Number 7, right? That's where, yeah. South City Midnight Lady. Yeah, long titles on this album. Really catchy song. It's a kind of cool blend of like acoustic rock and maybe country, a little bit like that country rock thing that was pretty popular like in the early 70s coming out of California. Pat's vocals are amazing on here. It's one of my wife's favorite Doobie Brothers songs, so props to that. So that's number 7. Number 6, I'm going to go with Natural Thing. How about that opening crystalline guitar lick, man? Amazing. It's just classic. One of the best licks on the whole album. Bright, fun rock song. Another great Tom Johnston lead vocal. Great chorus. Love Natural Thing. Could have even ranked higher. Number 5, I'm going to go with the FM rock staple here in the U.S., China Grove. Great opening riff. Ultra memorable chorus. It's classic for a reason. I don't like it as much as the other big hit from this album, but I do like it a lot. And again, it's most people like here in the States who are Doobie Brothers fans, know that song, love that song. The fact that it's coming in number 5 for me means that this album is just loaded with some classics. So that's 5. And my number 4 is Clear as the Driven Snow. What a magical song. It's like mystical folk. There's acoustic guitars and there's all sorts of cool changes and things. The Pat's vocals are awesome. It's kind of like progressive folk, man. It's like you listen to this song, it's just like, it's not your standard couple chords, whatever. It just weaves and goes in all these different directions. I love the vocal interplay. Man, the backing vocals are great. I could have ranked Clear as a Driven Snow a little bit higher, but man, my top 3 are like, love them so much. So yeah, Clear as a Driven Snow, my number 4. Back to Simon.
Pete, you're such a wise man. 3 for me. It's the only Doobie Brothers song off this album I've actually heard on the radio, because as you know, I tend not to listen to the radio unless I think there's a vague chance that John Parr will turn up. Yeah. Long Train Running. Yes. I've checked it out. A remix of this actually made number 7 in the UK charts in 1993. Yeah, by far their biggest hit. Whoa, what a tune! It's just these top 3, these top 5, these top 7 are just perfect, Stephen. I'm sure you'll agree. Again, it's if I look at my notes, and I don't write as if I'm reviewing, because I think we all know Simon can't fit that into his life anymore. Percussive.
Well, all the followers of the website are like, yeah, we haven't seen the Simon review in ages, which is not true.
Hey, I did a roundtable of Iron Savory.
That's what I was just going to say that. Yes.
Yeah. I've been working on a journey one for months, but anyway, let's move along. let's move along, shall we? Percussive as fuck, real earworm. The harmonies.
Simon. What did you just say there?
What?
Percussive as fuck.
Percussive as fuck.
Oh, right.
Do you remember the bit when I got called thick for being sweary? Percussive as fuck is my response.
But to be fair, actually, that's quite a good. It's quite a good. What's that? Alliteration? Simile. It's a simile.
Well, it's certainly not a simile, because simile is when something's like something, isn't it?
Yeah, but it is percussive.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's the S sound, so it's more arguably towards assonance or alliteration.
I think it's got a catchy hook to it. Percussive as fuck.
Alliteration. That's what we're going. Anyway, sorry.
It's a great tune. It's a solid gold, 100% classic. If you don't like this, then there's something wrong with you, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So what an earworm. The harmonies are fantastic. It's just a work of genius, really. It's just such a good album. And this is coming from somebody whose chosen favorite band is the Stranglers. That's an interesting thing to me. That on the one hand I'd like that, and the other I think, God, this is great. And what you've got there is you've got musicians who know what the fuck they're doing. there's something really classy about this and about to me the Stranglers. They really know what they do. They know how to structure a song and layer it so that everything makes sense. And you think, God, this is great. I really need to listen to this again, but because you've met me, I'm going to listen to the whole album before I play it again, because that's just what I do. What I'm going to do right now, because this is the only way I can do it, is I'm going to toss up heads or tails. Oh, turns out 2 China Grove, because these top 2 could flip at absolutely any point. Again, it's absolutely perfection. It's just great. And in Templeton's book, they wanted to name a song after China, and they looked at a thing and went, "Oh, China Grove, that's in Texas. We can write about that shit." And I can get down with that level of randomness. But what I would like to do is point out the bass playing on this record by Tyrone Porter. It's just great. It's something that I gravitate to every time I listen to it. It's just like, oh, that's really, oh, look at that. I'm going to go with that. Oh, I know there's some really good guitar over there, but just listen to that bass. That is really, really super. And what about that riff at the start? Oh, it's just great. But that means that now I've tossed up, because I couldn't. Without You is number 1. It sounds like the Quo. It does. It could be on a Quo album from that point. Again, everything is on this record. There's classic rock. They can boogie like they are doing on this one. There's folk. There's country. There's everything. And other than there's not really any what I like to call rumba R&B, you can see where they're going to go for the next what, 7 or 8 years before they split up and things kind of went tits up, and then they came back, and then Love Diminishing Returns and stuff like that. And Without You is awesome, really, really awesome. And you think, when you hear that thing, we're a guitar band. Well, yes, you are when you put your mind to it, and that is just so rocky. And what it's got, I think I'm correct in saying it's got both of them doing vocals, and I like that. I like practically everything about this album, unlike Steven Reid. You see what I did there? I gave you like a little in there because I'm a professional.
Yes, you did. Yeah, I mean, and a slap at the same time, but that's okay.
Yeah, just
he deserves it, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or Mr. Wrong, as we shall now refer to him as.
I'm a Roger Hargreaves book now. Am I okay?
I see what you did there. Excellent. Yes, indeed. What a lot of Mr. Men there are, and now there's Mr. Wrong.
Unfortunately, there's probably going to be some payback down the road for this episode, but that's okay.
I think this may be payback for a previous album homework assignment from a long time ago. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Right.
Forgot about that. Yep.
Track number 5. Fuck off, Stephen. You see, you've got to watch all of these to really understand what we're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. All part great storytelling, right? Keep up, people. Keep up.
Meta, that's what it is.
Right, anyway, seeing as you segued in for me beautifully 20 minutes ago, my number 3 is, how do we pronounce this? Ukiah?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I quite like the mood and the atmosphere of this one. It's upbeat, but it stays kind of loose and it's easy. It's got a good groove. I think that the keyboards are underutilized elsewhere on the album, but they're good here. They help me engage with it a lot. There's a fullness and a warmth that they bring that I don't necessarily find elsewhere. Again, the guitar solo is cool, and what I wrote here was, I knew you were going to hate me for this. I really do. I'm totally underwhelmed by the guitar work on this album. I think it's safe. I think it's ho-hum. Not necessarily here, it has to be said. It never really takes me by the scruff of the neck and demands my attention. It's much more kind of, hello? It's very polite. It's far too polite for me.
You like modern Marillion?
Yeah, that's because it's beautiful and textured.
And polite? Really?
No, it's not polite. No, it's not polite.
It really is.
Number 2, which I think that you two will be doing the show next week with us. They will be saying we'll be doing this without you, Stephen. So, okay, this is more like it. I've actually written down, the band woke up again. Right, that to me is what this feels like. Okay, they decide to hang some great vocals around an actual riff, and it's not just kind of some gentle noodling. There's real authentic bluesy lead vocals going down here. I even noticed there was some drumming going on. The drumming's really in the background, and it doesn't do it very much for me the way that it's put together in that sense. The guitar solo is really tasteful and contained. It never kind of goes into overdrive. I keep waiting for it to, but it doesn't. But I like this much more. And then after the kind of false ending, things really take off. And I've written down more of this, please. More, much more of this, please. The drums, the kick and the roll, the guitar stop apologising for being good, and the lead vocals really let loose. Why do they only do this at the end of a song? What's that all about? And then number one for me is the one that you two both think is rubbish. It's The Captain and Me, right? I like this a lot. I think the arrangement is busy but not cluttered, which is really clever. The subtle use of banjo, I really liked. It just gives me something else to hook into. The short sections that are just vocal and guitars kind of take me to a Child of Babylon feel. It doesn't sound like Whitesnake, but it's got that echoey atmosphere. It's really atmospheric. It's really moody and really quite beautiful. It's a really good thing, and I love the production. The production on the album is really good in general. The album sounds tremendous, but it feels much less forced to me than some of the earlier stuff I've ranked lower on the album, and it really flows freely. I find, and probably by some distance, this was my favourite track on the album. I gave this an 8.5 out of 10, and I really wish there was much more stuff like this. My number two and my number one. So Without You and the title track. If I'd had an album with 7 or 8 songs like this, I would be telling you that I love this album, and it's absolutely outstanding. And yes, Simon is correct. I listen to Marillion. I listen to Enya. I listen to lots of music that people could say is uneventful. So I don't need big country guitars and Mike Portnoy behind the kit giving it everything he's got at every second. I don't need all of those things to make great music. I just found this to be largely uneventful. But the best couple of songs on it, in my opinion, which would appear to be not everybody else's opinion, are outstandingly good. And my next question was going to be, is this their best album? But Peter's already put that down as a probable yes. So
yeah, I mean, it is for me. I would suggest maybe give the album that came before this, Toulouse Street, and the album that came after this, what were once vices are now habits, a try, because there are elements of what you get on this album on both of those. Personally, I think this is a much stronger album than those two, but I know people who like one or the other of those. And once you get into the later part of the 70s and the early 80s, they're a very different band. I mean, like Minute by Minute and some of those other albums are it's very Michael McDonald heavy, and they're very R&B kind of smooth type of thing. So to me, their 3 best albums are the ones I just mentioned in this. So I would recommend giving those a try.
As I definitely did say on Twitter, I think their first album is really underrated.
That's quite good as well. Yeah.
Is that quite good or quite good?
Good.
Yeah, my only issue with the first album has always been I wish there was a little more electric guitar oomph on it, because a lot of those songs are very acoustic driven, but the songs are very good.
Yeah, I really like that one. This is my favorite.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oh well, sorry. This is what I consider to be their best. My actual favorite, when the Memphis horns kicking on this, you think, oh my god, this is classic shit.
Yeah.
Really, it's so. You were saying earlier, Stephen, it kind of leaves you. I think they're such a warm band.
Well, it's interesting because there's been 3 words that have kind of come up. Or one that's in my head anyway. Folky. I'm not really a massive folk fan. You've just said when the horns kick in. Horns. Okay.
3 songs, but
yeah, I know, but that's. And whether it's the percussion or whether it's the guitar tone in some of them, certainly he says, scrolling back, because I don't know these songs well enough otherwise. Long Train Running. I find there's a kind of, between the percussion and the guitar, there's a kind of Latin-y feel in there.
There's a little Santana thing going on.
Yeah, absolutely. When I've heard this on Planet Rock, I have presumed wrongly, whilst not paying attention because I didn't really like it, that it was Santana. because it's got that feel. And I'm going to out myself even further here. I don't like Santana. And it's interesting to listen to the discussion of people who really do like this, and that passion is clear, that it's actually ticked a whole load of things that I think, yeah, I don't really like those in general. And I don't hate this. So this is actually maybe quite a good example of something that I was maybe destined not to connect with, because I don't dislike it. And there are a couple of songs that I could really live without. And I mean, and the thing that's ranked lowest is a very, very short piece of guitar. And I could have been glib and put it higher because I enjoyed it more than some of the longer songs, but that would just have been a bit over the top to rank that
too.
higher.
I mean, sometimes you have to have history with an album. Simon, when was the first time you heard this album? Like year, or like is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago?
Probably 30, because my actual, if we were doing our favorite, least favorite, my favorite Doobies album, and I know it's not their best, is Cycles, because that's where I came in.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. The Doctor, what a tune. It really is. I love that record. And then I worked my way backwards, and I liked upon this has been an absolute classic. So this has been with me in various forms, mainly cassette, and then buying it again on CD for about 30 years. And Steven's had it for what, 12 minutes. Yeah, so that history is important, I think.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
that knowing every word, waiting for that little, there's times when you think, oh God, he's gonna bash the cymbals. Yay, there he goes. That's fantastic. Yay. And that's what you probably feel like with things that you really love, Stephen, isn't it, as well? That
Well, yeah,
I would imagine going
there
forward.
are those moments that
I wouldn't like.
in the albums that mean a lot to you,
Yeah.
that you listen out for, whether it's a specific riff that lasts a couple of bars, or as you say, a drum break with a cymbal hit, or whatever, that you think, oh, I just love that moment. Absolutely. And clearly I've none of that history with this. But then at the same time, we all buy a lot of music and listen to a lot of new music in a year. And yeah, have I made my mind up on everything I listen to after a couple of weeks? Absolutely not. Absolutely 100% not. Last week I told you that Saints and Sinners by House of Lords didn't work for me. This week it works for me. And on Sunday, I went and cranked it up, had House myself for an afternoon, whacked it up and thought, yeah, okay. It's not my favourite House of Lords album, but what some people are actually saying about it clicked. So, yes, you need time and you need a journey and all these various things, but at the same time, there are sometimes albums that you listen to 3 or 4 times and think, yeah, that'll do. This kind of falls into that category for me.
Yeah, it's like like we were discussing on Twitter. I am so thrilled that I found the Mama's Boys album that I found and the Rick Wakeman album that I found this week because I haven't listened to them for ages. And isn't it fantastic when you can think, oh my God, I remember what I was doing when I first heard this, and when I actually quite liked this, and wow, why's that been in the cupboard for 30 years?
Yeah, very true.
It's one of the good things about getting old, isn't it?
Yep.
As you know, I'm not like you. I don't keep things completely alphabetized and in absolutely pristine A to Z or stuff like that, and Z, sorry, Americans. And when I've been prepping for the things that we've got going forward, I think, Jesus Christ, have I got that? I didn't realize that I owned Mr. Universe by Ian Gillan. I didn't realize.
Good album as well.
I know. And I know there was a time when I really liked it. So music's like that, isn't it? It comes in waves and does anything. So I'm going to listen to that tomorrow, and I'm confident I will enjoy it because I know that I used to. But imagine my surprise, and music it does that. Music's just awesome, isn't it? What do you think?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. The records that stay with you, like this is one of my records that have stayed with me a long time. Are like really special, and you hold them close, don't you? Yeah. And they're a part of you.
Yeah, I've got albums in my collection that I would go as far as to say are almost as important as my next breath. I can't live without them. There's certain music there that is just, it's ingrained. It's part of me. Yeah. You think of the gigs.
Yeah.
You think
about 15 years ago, we had a fire in this very house. And I'll be brutally honest. I wanted the dog out. Kids could sort themselves out. but I was shitting myself in case it went up, to my records. Utterly shitting myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. And I do want to comment on what Simon said just a couple minutes ago. It's like, I think I've often thought, if I were to stop buying any new music tomorrow, I have so much great stuff here that I haven't listened to in 10 or 20 years that I could pull off the shelf and put it in and be like, oh, now I remember why I love this so much when I first got it. Why haven't I listened to this in a decade? There's tons of that just sitting here. And it's like sometimes you almost feel bad that you can't go and revisit some old favorites because you have, a stack of shit like this that you got to listen to talk about and digest now, and then move on to the next batch of 5 that comes in next week. So yeah, it can be challenging and frustrating at the same time. But for me, because I asked Simon like when he first came into contact with this album, the first album I ever bought by the Doobie Brothers was Minute by Minute, because that was their biggest selling album here in the States ever. That kind of brought them back from the grave, because they had a couple albums after this album that didn't do so well here. They were okay, but Minute by Minute was their big, platinum album and, multi-platinum album. And I remember buying that because I remember, What a Fool Believes is all over the radio. And I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. And then I went and got like this and the Vices album. And I was like, oh, I like this even more. This is way better than the Michael McDonald stuff. So this has been like a favorite album of mine from them for, 40 years or thereabouts. So, I have a lot of history with it. So I think that has a lot to do with it. So Steven, I don't fault you for not falling in love with this album after 2 weeks, because it's not the way it works. So I totally get that. My number 3, Evil Woman. So blisteringly heavy, nasty guitar licks. I love Pat's vocals on this. Love the kind of spooky chorus. It's kind of silly, but I don't care. The lead guitars are amazing. I love Evil Woman. It doesn't sound like the Doobies at all. It's so heavy, and I absolutely love it. My top 2, I kind of did like what Simon did. I'm like, I almost can't decide because I love them both so much. I ultimately went with Without You as my number 2. I have just thinking that it's not my number 1 is like kind of killing me, but my number 1 is my number 1. One of their greatest heavy rock songs, and I've seen them live many times, and they played it a couple times. It sounds so amazing live. The riffs are great. The groove is ridiculous. I love the ensemble vocals from this band. I love when you got all 5 of them singing. It's amazing. Great song. And number 1, it's Long Train Running. Quite possibly the best song they ever did, in my opinion. Love this funky hard rock riff. The grooves are great. It's one of my favorite Tom Johnston vocals. I love the percussion, but I love Santana. So to me, it all works for me. It's just, it's got that the guitar is kind of clean, but it's kind of rocking. It's funky. You got all the stuff going on. I love it. I love it. It's been a classic rock staple for, almost 50 years. And this is like one of those Doobie songs that if I ever hear out somewhere I don't really listen to the radio, but if I do listen to the radio, it comes on, I'm like, yeah. So, yeah, that's my number 1, Long Train Running, from a classic album. Ta-da. All right, so that is your episode for today. So everybody's assignment is to rank these songs on the Captain and Me as you like them. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer, except in our situation here, because there are some right answers here, right? Sorry, Steven. We've got an interesting episode coming up next week that we still haven't 100% nailed down yet. So I think I'm going to let Steven kind of give us a little taste of what they can expect, even though we still are working on it. But
okay. So the general theme and idea, and it has been something that has been broadly suggested and asked for quite a lot since we started doing this show on the weekly basis, is a little bit of AOR and melodic rock coverage. Now, we are looking at we're not quite sure what yet. We don't just want to cover the classic albums in AOR because we all know them, they're great albums, and it would be good to talk about them in this kind of style. We might do that as part of the show. We would also like to talk about some of the lesser known albums from this genre, not just pure AOR, melodic rock, and all that kind of encompasses, And we were also looking at adding a little bit of, and this was something that Simon came up with, which I really liked, which is they did an AOR album, whether intentional or not. There are some people out there that are certainly in our circles and beyond household names who have done albums that definitely put at least one foot, if not both, wholeheartedly into the AOR kind of scene in one way or another. So we're looking at a way of combining a little bit of all of that or some of it into a show. And then maybe, if people like it, and it has been requested quite a lot because it'll take in some of the bands as well that have been suggested that are maybe a little too niche to do a whole show on, we could maybe do some more of these going forward. So hopefully that excites a whole load of people. And if you want to suggest albums that we could maybe look at and various things, if we do it going forward, that would be great too, because I think the possibilities are just about endless.
Yeah. And I think we all three of us feel very strongly that maybe every episode that we do on AOR and melodic rock should contain one of the elements that we just spoke about. So maybe there's a discussion, and just so everybody knows, so we do a show once a month on Fridays called Floor Fusion Friday, the first Friday of every month. And what George Lamy and Eric Porter and myself do is we pick 4 fusion albums that are kind of somewhat related by some sort of a theme. And in some cases, one or a couple of us may not have heard. George usually picks the album. So there's weeks or months, I should say, where there may be an album or two that we talk about that I've never heard before. So in leading up to that show, I've got to go listen to it, form an opinion on it, that sort of thing. And on that show, we rank the 4. And then there's also what George's pick that we have to listen to, that sort of that. So we're not necessarily going to absolutely replicate that, but I think what's cool about that concept is that there are going to be some albums that we'll talk about on the AOR Melodic Rock Show that might be new to some of us. Because, you know, I've told both Steven and Simon right off the bat that I'm sure they own more albums in this style than I do, even though I have a bunch. So for me, what would be cool is for one of these shows to be like, all right, there's 2 out of the 3 albums that we're going to talk about that I've never heard before. So I got to go do some homework, kind of like what Steven did today, and listen to them and form an opinion. And what we do is we talk about all 3 albums, the one really well-known one, the one that's kind of a little obscure, and then the one that's by a band that maybe did metal or prog or something completely different, but they did an AOR album, right? And then what do we think of these albums? And we just kind of talk about them. So I think that's kind of the way we're going. We'll know by next week, though. So that's what's so, and there's a lot to choose from, and across all eras. I mean, which is what's really cool. I mean, there's stuff from the 70s, 80s, recent stuff, a lot of great recent stuff.
I very quickly just put a list together, top of my head kind of thing, from we were batting this about through the week, and I have over 60 albums written on a list that fall into one of these categories in some shape or form, and that I like a list. Hello, my name's Stephen, and I'm a listaholic. And that's even just sitting here talking, I'm thinking, oh, there's a possibility. So yeah, hopefully you like the idea.
That's what's coming up next week. So stay tuned. This is a new one for us. So we like adding these new things. So not only are we doing favorite, least favorites and ranking the songs on classic albums, now we've got whatever we want to call this, like AOR picks of the month. I don't know, whatever. We'll figure it out. But it'll be fun to kind of visit some of this stuff because there's a lot of great music in the melodic rock AOR genre. So, or if it even is a genre, I don't know, style, I don't know. So anyway, there you have it, everybody. Let us know what you think of the Captain and Me songs. Rank them in the comments below, and we'll see you next week here on the UK Connection. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube, all together, all the damn time. Stay tuned tomorrow on ranking the albums. We've got Jamie Laszlo and myself ranking the albums of Sweden's Witchcraft. And then I think, Simon and I will have to discuss, but I think a week from Sunday will be 38 Special. I think. If it's not next week, it'll be the week.
I'm going on holiday soon. I'm just saying.
Okay, well, you around next week? Yeah, okay. We'll knock it out next week. So
yay.
There you go. So 38 Special a week from Sunday. And yeah, stay tuned. And for Simon Bray and Steven Reid, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching the UK Connection. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.